Hi guys, so this video is called Sin, Cause or Tan. So I'm going to go through a very important step that you need to understand before you start to work out the sizes of the of angles and sides in questions. So uh, after this you'll be able to work out the sizes of, we'll say x here, in number one, so you'll be able to work out the size of the angle, and in question two you'll be able to work out the size of the side x. But we're not going to be finding out the sides in this video, or the angles in this video. I'm going to do an important step first. So it's whether to use sin, cos or tan. So I'm going to take a right angle triangle here, and I'm just going to go through an example. So we'll call this 5 centimeters and this 8 centimeters. I'm going to label first of all, and if you're not sure on how to label opposite, adjacent or hypotenuse, just go back and revise that and have a look at it first, because you need to be able to do that before you understand this. So I'm going to label 5 as the opposite in this triangle because it's across from x, and I'm going to label 8 as the adjacent because it's just beside the angle. The other side would be the hypotenuse, and you can see clearly that this is the longest side in this triangle. Because there's no number there and we're not actually given the size of the hypotenuse, and we're going to leave it out, so I'm not going to label it. I'm just going to label the ones I'm given, the ones that I have to work with. So because 5 is the opposite and 8 is the adjacent, I want you to look back over here at sin, cos and tan. I want you to see, ask yourself which one of them is the one which has opposite and adjacent, like in this question. So you should be able to see that the one that has opposite and adjacent is this one, it's tan. Therefore, for this question, you're going to use tan. And that's all as far as I want you to understand for this video. So because when you're given the opposite and the adjacent, you use tan, because tan equals opposite over adjacent. I'm just going to go through another example quickly. So again, in this one, I'm going to label, I know that the one across from x is the opposite. I know that the longest side is the hypotenuse. So 3 is the opposite, 9 is the hypotenuse, and the adjacent would be up here. But again, there's no value up there, there's no number up there, so I don't need to mark it in. In this question then, I'm given the opposite, which is 3, and I'm given the hypotenuse. So I'm working with the opposite and hypotenuse in this question. So I want you to look back over here again at sin, cos and tan. So which one of them has opposite and hypotenuse? Well, it has to be the first one here. It has to be sin. So for this question then, you will use sin. And you'll be using sin to work out the size of the angle x there. So just one more example then. So in this one, you're given a missing side there, which is x, and then you're given 5 centimeters is the size of the bottom, and there's a 30-degree angle in here. So I'm going to label what I'm given again. So here the opposite would be over there, but there's nothing written over there, there's nothing there to work with, so you don't really need to write in opposite. The hypotenuse is the long side, so that's x here, so x is the hypotenuse, and 5 centimeters then has to be the adjacent. So in this question, you're working with adjacent and hypotenuse. Even though the hypotenuse is an x, you're not actually given a value for it. That's what you'll be working out. But you're dealing with the adjacent and you're dealing with the hypotenuse. Therefore, if you look back over here again, which one has adjacent and hypotenuse in it? It has to be the one in the middle. It's cos. So you'll be working with cos for this question. So that's as much as I want you to be able to understand for now, whether a triangle is sin, cos or tan. So So there's 9 examples here, or there's 9 questions here. If you want to just pause the video now, you can draw them out if you want and label them and decide whether they're sin, cos or tan, or you could just have a look and go through them and then just play on the video and I'll go through the answers. So I'll just go through the answers quickly then. So in question 1, 5 is clearly the opposite, 6 is the adjacent. So because I'm working with opposite and adjacent, if I look back up here to sin, cos and tan, which one deals with opposite and adjacent? It's tan. So tan for that triangle. Question 2, 30 degrees is here, so I can see that the opposite would be the far side, but there's nothing there, so x is the hypotenuse and 8 is the adjacent. So I'm dealing with hypotenuse and adjacent here, so the only one that has hypotenuse and adjacent in it is the middle one there, it's cos. So I'll be using cos for this question. Question 3, I can see 5 is the opposite and 9 is the hypotenuse. So opposite and hypotenuse. So which one has an opposite and hypotenuse? Well, it's the first one, it's sin. Question 4, x is the adjacent in this one and 8 is the hypotenuse. So adjacent and hypotenuse means that it's cos. Question 5, 9 is the opposite, 8 is the adjacent. So opposite and adjacent means tan. Question 6, x is the opposite, 10 is the hypotenuse. So opposite and hypotenuse means it's going to be sin. Question 7, 2 is the opposite, 4 is the adjacent, therefore it has to be tan. Question 8, 5 is the opposite, the x is the adjacent here, so opposite and adjacent means tan again, so another one that's tan. And the last one, 3 is the adjacent and 5 is the hypotenuse, so adjacent and hypotenuse means this one is going to be cos. So that's how to label and figure out whether you're going to use sin, cos or tan in the triangle. The next thing you should be learning then is actually working out the sizes of the angles and the sides. So if you understand this much, whether it's sin, cos or tan, you'll find the next bit a lot easier.